Hello and welcome back to the podcast, everyone. It's been a minute. It's been a minute indeed. Thank you for joining me. And let's explore a topic that is very dear to my heart, as you may know if you've been following the podcast for a little bit. And I'd like to talk about the dance between performance and humanity in business specifically. This is a big topic, and I'm not alone here to observe that this is something of interest and of importance for many people, whether you're the CEO, the leader of the culture and development, or the employees who are experiencing it. Literally, in the past few weeks, I've had so many accounts of people close to me, friends, neighbors, parents at school, that we know, who have shared with me once we start the conversation around work that there are a lot of pressure these days, pressure on the deliverables, pressure on bringing in the money, wherever this pressure might be coming from and the reasons why is not the focus of this conversation here. The idea is to explore together what can be done maybe differently and why should we even care to do things differently if we're leaning a little bit too much on the performance side of things. So you might be in those shoes yourself, where let me try to paint a picture here for you as far as what it looks like for certain people and try to correlate it with what you might experience. You get to your work environment. An environment in this conversation is a good substitute for culture. You get to work, the atmosphere, the environment, the culture is such that everything goes fast. You have a lot on your plate, meetings after meetings. You barely sit down to have proper lunch. The conversations that you have outside of your workspace or your desk is strictly geared toward work or solving a problem, or even worse, bitching about a problem. When you meet up with your superior, if you have one, the conversation is geared towards deliverables, what you've done, what you haven't done, expectations, more on your plate. It's driven by outputs, performance, deliverables, and we need that, right? Don't get me wrong. In any businesses, if we don't do well any of these things, and if we don't perform as a group, if the sales team doesn't bring in revenues, well, we don't have a business after all to work in. It's vital. It is vital to the existence of a business in the first place. I remember when I was in sales, one of the tagline amongst us was no sales, no business. Well, yes, I think we can agree that it is not going to be very sustainable or viable if the sales are not coming in and you're not performing. You might not have a very healthy business after all, right? But on the flip side, if you strictly focus on such output, let's put it this way, there's a cost that comes with your decisions, right? If you say yes to this, what are you saying no to, basically? If the sole alignment, orientation of a group, of a business, is geared toward performance, what are you saying no to and what's the price you're paying? Well, I can tell you for sure that with the people that I've spoke with those that I've coached, and for having experienced it myself, and I'm sure you did as well, what you get out of it on the flip side is more silos. You get more self-centric individuals by the nature of things. If you pressure people in a certain way, or if you expect out of them too much sometimes, well, we all fall back on our own safety and our own mechanism to produce what is expected and deliver what is expected so that we don't get in a hot soup or we keep our job even sometimes. That comes to the detriment of collaboration. That comes to the detriment of more open, honest conversations. It also comes with a lot of politics at times that are being created. So you see there's a beautiful direct correlation with heavily pressuring, focusing on performance and pushing people. That in itself, I can say is, if this is what's happening in your business, from an outside perspective, I can tell you that this is what you value. That is what you value, and the values and the behaviors that are going to be collectively shared are going to be much aligned with this type of environment. Well, the problem is if you haven't recruited people that want to be in such environments and that are geared to operate in such environment because of their own self-interest, because of their own motivation to maybe earn more, make more, their own motivation to climb the ladder, which is all things that you can do, even though you bring a little bit of humanity, by the way. But let's save that for later. If you don't have a group that is geared toward this right from the get-go, which is most of the company's case, right? There is change in management. The founder might not be there anymore. There's an acquisition that has been made. You wind up being in an enterprise that went through a bunch of phases and in its own experiment of business. And then you get a collective group of people that are not specifically aligned, doing more pressure, performance, sucking as much as I can out of the work and my clients, and that type of mindset. It's impossible at some point in a business life, if you haven't cultivated that you end up with this specific group. So that's the problem. You end up with a group of people that some might be like that naturally. That's our own evolution that will change that. And others might have experienced different things in the past or even in this same company and are maybe unpleased with the fact that, well, am I being cared for here? Do I matter? I understand that I need to produce a certain amount of work. I need to generate outcomes for this business. I might be needing to be generating revenues if I'm in a sales team. And the performance is important, like we said earlier. But is that all that counts? So from an individual perspective in a business, if you're a leader listening to this, one might inquire, how do my people feel? Do they feel like they belong? Do they feel safe? Do they feel like they are contributing to their full extent? Are they being heard? Are we communicating amongst us? Are we allowing for ideas to come up and being heard by the right people? Is this the environment that we have? And most often than not, the answer is no. And it's not the ping pong table, nor the pool table, nor the free lunch, nor the many different perks that are going to solve that. I can even go further and say processes will help to generate such communication and openness and different channels to circulate the informations, and the surveys will help, and all these jazz can help. But what we're talking about here is who we are as a group and how we're being together. So the processes can support that, but are they going to create it in the first place? I don't know. I doubt it. It hasn't showed to me that it does that so far. So maybe we can approach this from two angles. If I'm starting out and I want to create such things because I'm still in a young company, or on the flip side, if I'm in an existing company that has been doing things in a certain fashion for how many years, how do I shift this transformation to include a little bit more humanity when we're used to being driven by performance strictly? In both cases, I think it's fair to say that going back to the root and the very beginning is the starting point. If I'm creating something new with a group that is aligned on the intention of such leader, well, why do we want to create together, right? Why are we even here in the first place? This is Simon Sinek's Start With Why. This is purpose. This is mission. This, call it whatever you want. Why are we here together? What are we trying to accomplish? Oftentimes there's no clarity around that. What do we value together? How do we want to behave collectively? This will impact the rest inevitably. It's the basic, that's the foundation. Now, if you want to go and hire a consultant and do a value exercise, be my guest. I've done those. I've led those. I swear to myself that I will never do it again. If you ask me, what is the singular most important value that we should put out in our businesses with our people? It's love. Point blank. Everything derives from that. all of the beautiful values that you might want to put on your walls and talk about and have people experience will come from this one. And that's the only question I suggest into my coaching calls with clients now. What would love do? Start there. You can't go wrong with this starting point. And then yes, if you want to, write in the walls and talk about it and do all of those creative things that you can do to have certain aspect of what motivates the group in this business and how we want to collectively uh, go about it, sure, be my guest. I mean, I've seen on the walls of Southern businesses give a shit. That was their thing. And the group responded well to this type of phrasing and approach. Well, give a shit means care. Care is an extension of love. So it all triggers back to this, in my own opinions. So however you frame it is up to you. But do we have a clear understanding amongst us? How do we want to go about doing our work here? Between us as colleagues, with clients, what's important for us? How do we do this? Because that alignment and that level of clarity will dictate the behaviors that we'll have. And if for some reason some people are not capable of behaving in such way, don't value the same things as the group, well, two things are going to happen. They're either going to find a way out by themselves because it's not the right environment for them, or we'll have an opportunity to coach them up. If we're trying to consolidate and we're trying to create a movement, if we're trying to create together, we can't have somebody that's the black sheep that's trying to screw up what we're trying to accomplish. That's going to slow us down. That's going to create errors. That's going to create resentment. That's going to create backdoor conversations. That is going to create politics. That all that jazz will happen if we let creep in a lot of those people that might be going against the grain. We all need to swim in the same direction with the same current. This isn't anything revolutionary here that I'm talking about, but I'm sharing it to bring more awareness around the topic. I suppose the more we talk about it and the more we hear about it from different angles, the more seeds we're planting. So very high views. That's where we're starting. Whether you're a new company mapping this out, or whether you're an existing company that are trying to revisit and transform the way we're collectively operating together. Then we get to the rubber meets the road, right? And that's where maybe processes and certain methods can be helpful to support where we're trying to go and the spirit we're trying to do it. If we're all hiding behind emails and nobody's talking to each other, well, maybe we're going to drop the ball somewhere in this good intention of collaborating, communicating effectively, solving things rapidly. If we're hide behind emails, it can take some time, perhaps. That's just one example. But so in the spirit of wishing to have our employees experience what we decided are the behaviors and the values that are driving us, that will carry on this business even in time and further, perhaps. How do we create this space? And yes, right, so processes will help. But let's not forget about the more subtle things, the cafeteria conversation, the conversation next to the coffee machine, the conversation that a few or two people are having over lunch outside of work, the after hours, what is being said, how it's being done, what's the vehicle basically that we're using in any of those instances is of such importance. I firmly believe that's where the bulk of the spirit of a group resides. It's in those small interactions. It doesn't have to be the big events. It doesn't have to be in the specific moments that we've set up for our connections, our weekly meetings, or all hands, or daily huddles. Yes, it needs to happen there. But once this is done, what unfolds is of even more greater importance, in my opinion. But what's the point of talking about all this if you don't even have the awareness of the importance of it all? It takes a strong leader. As I always say, the culture in a business is always the reflection of the level of consciousness of its leaders. If the group that is leading is not aware of the importance of having people that we care for, that are actually being felt cared for, that feel safe to try things, to communicate things, to open up about their challenges. If we don't have such environment, inevitably doors are going to start to shut. People are going to start to shut down. Self-centeredness, less collaboration, lack of communication, lack of initiatives. People stick in their ways. I'm going to do my thing, not going to make too much waves. This is the type of byproduct that will happen if we only focus on generating revenues and performance and executing, and we don't step back and say, wait a minute, all this is going to happen through people. How are they doing? Right? And it doesn't mean that it's only focusing on the professional stuff, by the way. If we shy away from getting to know our staff, knowing how they're doing in their own personal life, how can we even foresee that the personal life is not going to impact the professional life? It's very difficult not to bring your stuff at work. It takes a very strong, wise, awake individual to make that threshold. And most of us are not saints yet, right? Having the possibility for those people to also share very openly what is going on in their own life is valuable in a business. It doesn't have to turn into therapy. You might have someone on board that focuses on anything wellness related, whether it's professional or personal, and that's even better. And that's an underlying point that I wanted to make sure to make here as well. Do you have somebody in the company that sole mission is to gauge how your people are doing professionally and personally? Most of the company don't. In the bigger structure, they might have coaches on board, or might have psychologists there. The better versions of that I've seen unfolding lately in the past few years is what Claude Silver and Gary Vaynerchuk started to create, that movement around chief heart officer, chief happiness officer. And there's been many variants of this. A lot of them are focusing on the perks and the well-being of employees through external things. The best of them, like Claude Silver from Vayner, they're focusing on the people, on their own growth, on how they are contributing. Do they feel valued? Are they in a seat where their own skills and motivation are being put at the forefront? Are you a low performer? What's going on? What's going on in your life? Or what's going on in your team? How can we support you? What can we do? This is the essential role of somebody that is strategic and at the meantime heart-centered and cares for people. You need to have the ability to have those conversations. You need a coach. You need a strategist and a coach to be in such seat. But there's a lot of value in having such person in one business, because at the end of the day, people will say, "Oh, it's too fluffy. That's, I want to say, esoteric. Like, we don't really get what this person is doing." Yes, let's be clear. Let's make it straight for once. It is not about rainbows and unicorns. Such role. Factually speaking, it's about having someone that can see the inefficiencies, that can have the conversation with somebody that's not doing well and try to lift them up. It's about having the conversation with somebody that's doing great and motivating them to keep on going, and also to use what they're doing and maybe replicate it somewhere else. It's about making sure that everybody feels heard, safe. It's about making sure that everybody's having fun together and striving for the same goal. It's about making sure that everybody knows what the goal is, what the mission is, what's the purpose, and driving that for the group. It's about making sure that we all collectively share behaviors and values that are promoting the well-being and the health and the performance of this business. Because if we do all this, at the end of the day, if you put people first and you care about them, your business will succeed. Your business is about people. If your people are well, they feel good about their work, how they're contributing, they're in the right seat, they're being lifted up when they need to. When you leave them better than how you found them, People respect that. People will want to contribute and chip in and do their best work. That in turn will create continuity or longevity for a business. What happens when you have longevity? You don't have as much turnover. What happens when you hire people that fit in such group? They mingle, they co-create, they grow together. You see, that's very holistic. For me, it's obvious. It's like clear as water on rock, but it's not for everybody. And I hope that what I'm sharing here is planting that seed and is sparking maybe a reflection around, okay, so are we doing that? To which extent? What could maybe we do differently to create such environment? Because yes, I want a business that succeeds and I want a business that makes money. Because if that doesn't happen, we don't have a business, right? I was reminded of that so beautifully reading Yvon Chouinard book lately, the founder of Patagonia. Let my people go surfing. And by the way, that's literally true for them. Sports, being in nature, was so vital to their existence as human beings and as a business that became a thing. If the wave is good and it's coming now, next week it might not be there. It's not time to go and surf next week. It's time to go now. So pick up your stuff, go get your board, and go surfing. And we trust that you're going to come back to work and do what you have to do. You're going to be more you're going to be more energized. You're going to be happy, and all of the sub elements of allowing people to do that will always outweigh the restrictions that would not allow people to do that, basically, right? And I was also reading in his book, the very fundamental elements that kept on being the core motor of what Patagonia is. It has been from the get-go. It still is today, almost 50 years later. Make good quality products and make them so that we contribute to our world, to a better world, sustainably speaking and environmentally speaking. These two elements have been the core of what drove Patagonia. What are we talking about here? We're talking about their purpose. We're talking about the mission that they've given themselves. Why is that such of importance? Because the people that joined them cared as much as they did about that. And what happens if you have a group that cares as much as you do? Well, they want to put in the work. They want to contribute. It's a natural human behavior to do so if you're excited about what you're doing. Now you're probably thinking, yeah, Max, but I mean, that's one thing. But for the person who's designing the thing, or the person who's choosing in the lab which material to choose and how to weave them together so it's more environmentally, sensible to do so. It's not the same thing with the person who's making them, or it's not the same thing for the person who's cleaning up, brooming the floor. Well, I disagree with that. We all have our cup of tea. At one point in my life, I was the perfect guy to sweep the floor. I was a young man, and I ended up working in a warehouse, and I found so much pride in making sure that that thing was running smoothly and was spick and span. And I was getting to work excited every day to do just that. The person that replaced me was 3 times my age, but he cared as much. When I visited the place long after, it was as clean as I left it when I was there. We all have our right place, and we all have our cup of tea in our skills, in who we are, in our behaviors, and etc. Although behaviors can adapt and change, but that's another story. We all have our just place. We all have our just place. Everyone in your company can be that person. From me, who was sweeping the floor, not weeping. I wasn't weeping on the floor. I was sweeping it. From that person to the CEO, we all have our just place. And if we connect to the purpose and the mission and the values of such group and bring in our A game, respectively of what we're asked to be done, and we've been put in the right seat, it all comes together and it all pays out at the end of the day. Yvon Chouinard from Patagonia has never been about the money. He never looked for it. He never really wanted it in the first place. It happened to unfold that way for him because I think he got really honest and stick to the truth of why he created this business. Is he well off now? Yes. Could he be doing a lot of millionaires do with their money? Yes. Is he doing it? No. He's a more humble guy. Fine. If you're more into the fancy things and you want to have your yacht and travel in your private jet and have those 5 stars hotels, sure, why not? I mean, we can enjoy life as we want. But if you're enjoying this because of the byproduct of creating an environment that sustains itself because we care about our people, then all the better. If you're there enjoying this because you're squeezing as much as you can of every lemon, and I'm sorry if that seems pejorative, but if you're squeezing as much as you can from employees, if you're not paying them equally, if you're not treating them properly, and you get to enjoy those life's blessings because of that, well, maybe you want to reflect on that one. Maybe you want to reflect on that one. So, friends, listen, I could go on. You see how passionate I am with this topic. For me, it boils down to a few important elements. Am I willing and am I able to create this within my business? That will come with awareness. Awareness will come with either you coming to your senses and saying, yes, this makes sense. It is honest. It is the right way to go about it. Let's create that. If it's not this way, it will come through suffering, as it does in our own personal life. Oftentimes, change will be forced upon us by us. It's never forced upon us. We decide to change because we've had enough. We've suffered through it too much. And I'm the perfect candidate to speak of that one because I've suffered my load in my life for different things. And it is this own suffering that pushed me to embrace change. And nobody could do it other than me. And I could not blame anybody else for that either. It's the same thing in business. At one point, if you're not the one, if you're not the guy or the girl who comes to his senses and has this level of awareness to create an environment that is at the same time performing and at the same time human in its care and its love for your people, then you're going to come through it to the other lens. And that's through hit and miss. That's through people not being happy at work, people leaving. That's through projects not being able to be completed and moving forward. It's through maybe lack of revenues. It's through maybe even bigger blows like the loss of a business or the acquisition of such business at a cost that is not representative of what you would have hoped, maybe. That's the starting point. Do I have the awareness? And now am I willing and able to go about it? I might not be the right person, but can I have the right people in the right seats to operate this? Do we have clarity on why we're even doing what we're doing and where we're going? Is this clear for everybody? Furthermore, how do we want to behave together? What do we value together? Are you the type of person of people that have things like give a shit on their walls? Fine. But let's be clear on it. And then let's work together to remind ourselves that this is how we roll. This is how we do things here. That would require a lot of coaching. That would require a lot of training. That will require a lot of patience. But if you stick to it, the output, the outcome of doing that will only increase the performance you're getting out of your business. It's a natural law, cause and effect. Cause and effect is a law as much as gravity is a thing. If you do that, the effect will be such that you'll collect or you'll reap what you sowed. And everybody will. And there's a litany of things that you need to address in this thing, in this intention, from values to behaviors to salaries to how do we communicate to how do we organize our teams to how do we set up our meetings to how do we have our processes together to maybe the strategies that we're operating. It is a lot, but this decision of mingling and finding your own balance between performance and humanity is, in my experience, the ideal way to go about creating a sustainable business where people have fun and where they contribute to the bigger purpose that the company has, and maybe even their own. Ideally their own. Ideally their own, even though it doesn't have to do with your business. but that's you going an extra length to care for your people. Culture is a thing, guys. Call it culture, call it atmosphere, call it environment, call it whatever you want. Can we create such energy in our businesses so that we all flourish and that we all grow together? Well, I guess that's the question, right? But I would invite you to reflect on that one and consider it seriously, because this is a legacy that will be remembered. In 50 years from now, you and I, depending on your age, but I'll be dead. Probably will you too. And I'm not going to be remembered. I'm not going to be remembered by my own family at one point. I'll be an ancestor, somebody that's carried a line. They won't remember my name unless they have a tree, a family tree. What do you think is going to be with your business? If you're not the original founder, you sure as heck not going to be remembered. And even if you are, you might not be. But what you leave the business with might stick around. And that will be not even a matter of being remembered. That will be a matter of being felt and experienced and carried on. So the impact of your decisions on culture now can affect many generations going forward. Whether it sticks in the family business or it's being sold or whatnot, that's the type of legacy you can leave the world with. Because what you're doing in your business rays out. Think about it. The way you're operating now, today in your business, doesn't stop between those walls. It touches your clients, it touches your suppliers, it touches the partners, it touches the people of such partners and clients and suppliers. And that's not in your own city. That's next continent, across the globe. It travels far and wide. How you operate, how you treat people, that's the thing. It radiates out, and it starts with you. Always starts with you. So how will you conduct yourself today? What will you promote? And what might be a change that's needed? I will invite you to go and reflect about that one. It's a long, beautiful reflection, but the decision can be made quite quickly once we come to our senses and we grasp the full circle and the holistic impact that this has on your people, your business, and the world. Well, on that note, thank you for listening, and hopefully a bit of perspective was gained through this listen for you guys. Wishing you a beautiful day ahead, and until next time, cheers. Thank you.